In this training, we will go over our O3 template and do a review of configuring the AI colleagues. So let's get started by creating a new board. I will click the blue button to the top right-hand side of the screen. There we go. I will choose the O3 template with 2 AI colleagues. This offers 2 perspectives on a challenge. So I will select that template. Now for this training, I'm looking at a new food product. So I'm going to call this template new food product. And let's click create board. I'm going to open the board by clicking on it. Here we are in the board now. So to do a quick review, the gray area is called the frame. The entire space is called a board. And these white areas are called lists. So I'll go through the list on this board. This board contains context on the top left. You have a notepad. Then, as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 AI colleagues. So the one on the left is currently configured as a finance consultant. The one on the right is configured as a sales consultant. And then we have an option to store a history of our answers to the left. And we have the option to store a history of our answers to the right. Now, I mentioned for this training, we're going to be looking at an example of a new food product. Now, I don't have one. I don't have a company. So I'm going to work with my AI colleague to help me come up with a new food product. So for purposes of this piece of the demonstration, I don't have any context. There is no content on this board, so I'm going to uncheck all of the lists. And I will give you a quick review of our AI colleagues. So we have a competent assistant, which will give you responses that are short and to the point. We have a creativity consultant, which provides responses that are good for blog posts, social media, content, writing, those types of things. ESG will be environments, social governance type issues. Finance looks at cost control, and sales will look at expanding sales. So those are the assistants that are currently available to you, the AI colleague type personalities. We also have personalities in Spanish and French. And then at the very bottom, you will see none, which is your generic AI. It doesn't have a personality. It is essentially ChatGPT 4.0. We will have other options in the future. For now, we have ChatGPT 4.0. So I'm going to choose none for purposes of identifying my food product. The other option we have here, so you will see history of answers to the left and history of answers to the right, which I showed you earlier. I can store my answers in these spaces. So for this list, I'm going to want to store all the responses I get from the AI in history of answers to the left. So I'm going to select that here. So this essentially says select a list where to keep a copy of the answers. This is optional. You don't need to choose it. But for purposes of this, I do want to have a history of my answers to the left. Sometimes it doesn't pop up right away. So I'll just click done. And then I'm just going to click back on the generic AI, and I'm just going to make sure that it's here and I see it, history of answers to the left. None of my lists are checked off, and I haven't chosen a colleague. Well, essentially I've chosen none, which is highlighted by blue here. So when I click done, we see generic AI, which is the generic AI. So I'm now going to ask it to provide an example of a new food product that I will use for this demonstration. And now we've been given an example of a food product, which is a Veggie Burst snack bar. These bars are a line of nutritious plant-based snack bars, primarily from a mix of vegetables, seeds, and nuts. It's got some key features. It's plant-based, high fiber, low sugar, gluten-free, no artificial additives. It's got some flavors here: garden medley, spicy tomato, beet berry, pumpkin seed, etc. These are individually wrapped bars in recyclable packaging. There are multi-packs. Our target market is a health-conscious consumer looking for nutritious snack options, busy professionals and students needing a quick and healthy snack, etc. Got some nutrition information. and a bit of a marketing strategy, promoting through social media influencers, offering free samples, etc., and some potential benefits. It's a convenient way to increase vegetable intake, supports overall health, etc. So that works for me. That's a pretty good product description. I am going to select this list. I'm going to select all the cards. And just for purposes of this, I'm going to copy this information to the clipboard because then I won't get separate cards. All the information, I can just paste it into a single card. So I'm going to enter it into the context. I will click paste there and I'll hit return. So all those cards have now, all that information is in a single card. It's easier for me. And instead of context, I'm going to change this title to food product description. That'll just make it easier to follow. We'll know what that information is when I'm adding this list into the colleague. Now we have these cards here. I don't need them anymore, so I'm going to select the list. I'm going to select all the cards in the list, and then I'm going to click delete, and I'm going to delete all selected cards in this list. They're gone. Okay. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to increase sales for the veggie bar food product. If I had a real organization, I would add additional context somewhere on this board about my organization, the number of employees, our budget, our various sales strategies we've tried. I'd add all of that context into this because that would play into the AI's responses. We have a little bit here because in this example, we've been provided with a bit of a marketing strategy like free samples, partnering with nutritionists, running a campaign highlighting the environmental benefits of plant-based eating, etc. So let's see if the AI takes this information into account. So I'm going to set this up now. I want the food product description as part of the context. I'm going to have the history of answers to the left. And this time I want to have our finance consultant. So this is going to be a bit of a cost-saving strategy that I'm looking for to increase profits. I'm going to click done. So I'm going to add my prompt here. How can I increase profits? And we want to do that by saving costs with the finance consultant. Now I'm going to set up the AI colleague on the right-hand side in a similar way. We already have it set up for a sales consultant. We've got the food product description there, but I now want to have a history of my answers to the right. So I'm going to click done, and you see history of answers to the right, history of the answers to the left. So I just want to double check. There we go. We see history of answers to the right. And now I'm going to add my prompt to the right. How can we increase profits? And I'll hit enter on both. Okay, so we have the responses on both sides. So here on the left, you'll see right away cost optimization in production. So it talks about bulk procurement, supplier negotiations, streamlined production processes, product line extensions, potentially new flavors and sizes, limited editions, complementary products, enhanced marketing and distribution, expand distribution channels, advertising campaigns, loyalty programs. What do we have on the right? Is it similar? So on the right side, the sales consultant has suggested expanding distribution channels, target online marketplaces, retail partnerships, subscription services, product line extensions, new flavors, different sizes. So you'll see there might be some things that are a little bit similar. Bundle offers, enhanced marketing strategies, influencer partnerships, content marketing, loyalty programs. And the great thing is we might have some similarities, we might have some differences. Just like people, you're going to have your finance person might provide some marketing ideas, your salesperson might provide some cost control ideas, but you are the final decision maker. So you can choose the ideas that work best for you based on what you are trying to accomplish. And you could say select some of these ideas and move them to your notes list up here if that's what you wanted to do. Now, the great thing is I have all of this saved here, history of answers to the left. So there we go. I've got the answers, how can we increase profits from our finance consultant? And I've got history of the answers to the right. and we've got our sales consultant to the right. So I might just add a little note here so I know where these answers came from, sales consultant. And if I was doing a real scenario, I would start to select various ideas and actioning them and prioritizing them. However, this is a demonstration, and I want to show you one other thing that we might do here. So we are a company that also, let's say, cares about ESG. We've got recyclable packaging, so I just want my food product description there, and I want to work with my ESG consultant, and I'm going to click done, and I'm going to ask my ESG consultant how we can maximize ESG compliance. And let's see what it says. And so it's taking in, just as a quick reminder, it's taking in information about the food product description. So let's see what our ESG consultant now tells us. I'm going to click return. And while that loads, I'm going to now call this list ESG consultant, because consulting advice, I can add it to the other AI. So here it's saying sustainable sourcing and supply chain transparency, ensure that all the vegetables, seeds, and nuts are sourced from suppliers that adhere to sustainable farming practices, providing information on impact. It's suggesting social responsibility and community engagement, partnering with local communities and small-scale farmers to source ingredients. It's giving more information on impact again, suggesting eco-friendly packaging and waste reduction, move beyond recycling packaging to composting or biodegradable packaging solutions. So it's pushing the limits, sharing information about impact again, and then providing a thought-provoking question. How can Veggie Burst Snacks expand its impact on the local and global community through innovative ESG practices? So we're getting a lot of ideas that we can work with. Now, let's imagine we're a relatively new company. We don't have a lot of money to spend. We want to do our best with ESG, but we do need to limit our expenses. So I'm going to now work with the finance consultant to minimize our costs. I'm going to set this up for our finance consultant. I'm going to use the ESG consulting advice provided. I don't need the food production description anymore. We're really just looking at the ESG consulting advice. I'm going to click done. And now I'm going to ask our finance consultant which of the ESG practices suggested should we do first to minimize costs, and let's see what we get. So here we go. It's saying to minimize costs while maximizing ESG compliance. Here are 3 concrete options. So we've got the sustainable sourcing, ensure that the vegetable, seeds, nuts are sourced. Social responsibility, it's quite similar. Eco-friendly, it's giving us the impact, but here we've got some advice. Given these options and their potential impacts, starting with eco-friendly packaging and waste reduction might be the most cost-effective initial step. Transitioning to compostable or biodegradable packaging could immediately reduce waste management costs and align your brand with sustainability trends, attracting eco-conscious customers and potentially increasing market share. So let's say we do like this, and there's a thought-provoking question: in what ways can Veggie Burst bars leverage technological advancements to further reduce costs while enhancing ESG? Let's say we do like these and we want to start actioning these. I will select them. I'm going to move them up here to notes. So I'm going to click into that space, and I'm going to cut and paste our options there. And I also want to keep this information available to me, but I've already changed this to ESG consulting advice, so I can keep this here and come back and reference it at a later time. And I might add another AI if I want to explore more or work with this AI. So that's what you can do when you have 2 AIs or 3 or 4 AIs in the STS platform. You can compare and contrast. You can feed information from one AI into another AI. You can work with your team, and you can move information around so that you can support your decision-making practices. And we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what your questions are and if we can create more trainings for you to help support your process, we would love to do that.